paint during a hobby hang? What is this you speak of? That just happens by accident most of the time. The original concept is to paint. And we don't, then we chat. Hamster takes forever. And then finally remembers we're here to paint. But we doing pretty good. At the very least, you know, getting at least one mini done per stream, start to finish, which used to not be the case long ago, for those that remember. But I have one more left in the Og Sul here, the little Trollkin relic blade guys. And I got a bunch more relic blade here. I know Chris wants to play some relic blade. Yeah, if you know, you know exactly. Come a long way here. But we got one more in the Og Sul. More relic blade to come. Hoping to play it at the office next week. It's one of those games that I really love, but I play it so sparingly. Like, I pull it out like once a year, maybe. So I'm hoping to do it a little more frequently this year. So I think it's a lot of fun. It's always tough to start, you know, play a game that, like, your local scene doesn't really have a group for. So maybe that means I have to make one. I've been thinking about that, actually. Maybe I can demo the game and get some people playing it. It's like I have so much stuff for it that, you know, someone who's semi-interested, like, wouldn't necessarily need stuff so they could try it. But I feel like, you know, especially with card upgrades and everything, it's always more fun to, like, have your own and have your own ideas and paint your own minis and stuff. So I don't know if that would actually, like, get momentum going or not, but somewhere to start. Yeah, sometimes you've got to start the movement, exactly. Yeah, since we lost the RB sponsorship, before it ever began, you know, we tried to get that sponsorship, but prepping for gaming, nice. Painting a mini as we speak, incredible, I love that. Definitely posted in the Discord, love to take a peek. Dolly's under the desk right now. She's very concerned. Dang, that's a lot of gaming. I've never actually gotten a chance to play Pathfinder. I've heard from some people, like, some of the differences in mechanics that seem very cool. And I remember the initial edition was kind of like a revitalization of 3.5, which was I have played, which is a lot of fun. But, like, the new action economy and stuff also sounds very fun. 18 hours. I think we can say it. I think that's a marathon. Dolly, you don't get to play... Hey, you don't get to play Pathfinder, I'm sorry. I hope the compressor is working and you're not... That's not blowing out your ears. Please let me know if it is. Because she barks at the elevator and there's not a lot I can do to stop it. Oh, you're playing first. Dolly, no. Sounds like cute barking when I play Pathfinder. Okay, good. Dolly, if you want to participate, you got to be on camera, okay? Okay, so you're on first edition. Amazing. Tyler and I were just having a random conversation in the office the other day about, how, like, what would you do to change 5e? It mostly came down to combat because I'm like the resident wargamer. So he was looking at that system Nimble that I've seen like being advertised around, and it's like very fast paced. So he was talking about like, could you add some of the fast paced mechanics into combat of 5e? Because it also has like a 5e translation, like play the system as is, or here's like the overlay for 5e if you want to use it for that. So he's thinking about trying that out. He doesn't run the game that he and I play in, but he runs other games, so. Yeah, you're the LARP. Yeah, you're the LARP organizer. This is a day in the park. I think early in my career at Dwarven Forge, it was a smaller group. So Nate, you know, I was going to say convinced us. We didn't need much convincing, but we all went as a group to a local or a nearby LARP. And that first one, like all of us went, it was probably like 6 of us. We were all kitted out fully from like Nate's collection of LARP gear. We all got like the same hoods, like these little mantles, like knitted for us. So we came in as like just, a force, like a cohesive force together. And I just think it was a lot of our first times, but we all like bought in right away. I think it's one of the coolest gaming experiences I've ever had. And we did it a couple times, but nothing will beat that first one of like, we all bought in, we all showed up like as a war band together, like as a party. And so that was fun for the other people who've been like grinding that game, like maining that game for a long time. They're like, oh, there's a new group, and they're all like, getting into it. And just the combat was fun. I really loved just like the game of the combat, and the event was run so well where there was interesting activities to do. And actually one of the later ones that we did, because by the end of the weekend, they try to do like a big mass battle as the last event. But sometimes people have to go. People have to leave. And in general, the volunteers that show up to like be NPCs, it's hard to get a lot of people sometimes. And so for the last one, we turned. And we said for the last day, we're going to play NPCs in the battle. And it was fun because like meta-wise, at a meta level, the players that recognize us as the group they've been playing with all weekend all of a sudden see us walk out as NPCs for the battle, and that you can see in their eyes that glimmer of fun, but it's like, oh shit. So that was a lot of fun. And they gave us cool abilities, like we were kind of like shark monsters, so we could like basically, we were like spirit sharks, so you would be like swimming in like the ether and then appear. So you would call an effect that was like, I'm basically invulnerable because I'm not in this plane right now, and then you would like appear. So they could see you walking because you're physically walking, but they're like, oh, he's going to like come out and do some attack thing. Anyway, it was just a lot of fun. And of course, running around in the woods is always fun. I love like camping and stuff. And it was not really camping, but you have lodges. But it's cool to get out of the city and get in the woods and play around. That's amazing. Your people are so good at the combat that they had more numbers, but they're still like, oh, this encounter is weak. That they got really, in this LARP, they got really creative with like the abilities of the monsters. of the NPCs, I think, to kind of balance that and to make it exciting. Whereas like there was one like werewolf attack, and basically the mechanics of in this case were like they're just resistant to a bunch of damage types, like of course melee, but even like magic and stuff. So you'd be ready to be like, all right, werewolf battle, let's do it. It was nighttime, it was awesome. And it was like, all right, I'm gonna start blowing my abilities. And their call they would make, that you'd hit them, they'd be like, resist. You're like, what? You hit nothing. Resist, resist, resist. You're hearing that, and you're all of a sudden scared. You're like, uh-oh, what do we do? What do we do here? So that was fun to like have that feeling of like, we're superheroes, we'll be fine, and then just totally get the tables turned on us. It was very fun. My favorite memory, specifically, was when I went out there, I was sword and board. Big sword, big shield. And Nate was a caster, which they had like little stocking, like, leg stockings full of bird seed as your projectiles to throw as magic spells. And you would have to do an incantation in order to like empower your spells, and you have to say your phrase or whatever. And some people would kind of roleplay that fully. Some people just wanted to throw seed bags. But Nate, of course, is going to go all in and do like this big elaborate incantation. And so there was one mission where we were indoors on the campground. There was like the lodge area. And so they set it up like a freaking haunted house kind of thing, right? Like it's just dark and you don't know when you're going to see enemies or something, right? And so the corridor is like barely 2 people wide. In my armor and my shield, it's basically 1 person wide. So I'm at the very front, of course, and we see an enemy, and so I'm holding my shield like ready, and I hear Nate saying, like, shouting, role-playing his incantation, and so I just, without looking back, I just kneel right as he finishes, and he just starts machine gunning like the magic spell bags out behind me. And it was just a very cool like moment of coordination that couldn't be planned. And that specifically is probably one of the coolest gaming memories that's ever happened to me. All right, you know what? I think I'm confident we can finish this guy pretty much no matter what. But some of these I might do a little kind of undercoat on. This is the thing. These I primed a long time ago in black, and I'm starting to do gray because I'm starting to do like some colors in the priming. I don't think I need to always go this saturated as this blue. I think it's fun. But you can see, well, hopefully, maybe on camera you can see that I did do kind of like a dark red brown, and it's always tough to do it over black if you want any saturation to remain, even as a shadow, because that small amount of transparency and optical mixing is happening is going to make it like so dark it basically just appears black and it's not going to show up. That's something, when I started experimenting with this, it almost was like a moot point because it wouldn't appear in the end result. And some of that was confidence. It's like, well, I don't want it to like look crazy, but now I don't mind it looking a little outrageous because, if you're really staring at it, it looks crazy, but on the table, it's doing its thing, as opposed to something like this where it's like you might as well not even do it. So I've just been trying to push. If I want an effect to happen, you have to kind of like go all in and exaggerate it. This goes for Dwarven Forge too. Like the early Sinister prototypes were very, very dark, but I didn't want them to be black. But I would mix in a little into a dark base coat and it would kind of disappear and still look black, like functionally black. And so you know, you gotta kind of gotta push the dial a little bit when you're doing that. So anyway, I'll probably punch these up for the underpainting. These are just so cool. I love Relic Blade models so much. I miss in-person gaming, let alone immersive. Yeah, obviously, like during the lockdown times, my D&D group, like, it was very, very good for everyone's sanity to do Discord D&D. But man, when we got back to in-person, whoo, you felt the difference. Had a great moment where myself and another of the ref team were a sniper spotter attacking the players. One of the players was cocky. We can all imagine the type, right? Even like as role playing the character, you're like the hoity-toity sort of. And did a called shot on my friend's elbow so he couldn't hold the rifle. Without any comms, I just knelt down in front of him. He put the rifle on my shoulder and shot the very stunned-looking player. Got you. Joke's on you. See, that's what's so fun. It's like, we solved it. Like, even in not, like, LARP immersive, just, like, all RPGs, like, all gaming, it's like, we solved it, we did it, and then there's kind of a twist. That's just, you can't beat that. Yeah, like, you're gamers, too. You're like, they're going to present a problem like that, and you're going to be like, okay, counterplay. That's incredible. Shh. Stop. It's okay. Come here. Come here, baby. Yeah, Dolly was adopted. You know, she was already 6 years old when she was adopted by her mama, and she's always been anxious, and there's no way around the fact that when mama's gone, she's a little riled up, so. Yeah, Fury Road. Hell yeah. Okay, good. I mostly am just, I'm glad you're confirming that the levels are okay. Then I'm not super worried if that's the case. So that's good. Obviously, I would want to adjust things if it's like unbearable to hear. Okay, good. Yeah, no, like generally with streaming, like there's monitoring functions where I can hear in my headphones what's happening, but the problem is that like, I mean, I haven't adjusted settings in a long time, so maybe this has changed, but like if I'm monitoring it, then it's going through the desktop audio that I'm streaming to you. So it like sounds weird because you're basically hearing the sound and the monitoring of the sound. So I don't have that function on. And I never have. Like I started streaming even before Dwarven Forge. So I'm kind of just used to like gauging it, but that means that instances like that where it's like, boy, I wish I knew what you all out there were hearing. I don't really have that. Oh, sorry, Dolly. I was just gonna say, she's finally calmed down and laying down under the desk, but then I bumped her on accident because I was trying to give her more room and I adjusted. It's okay, baby. You're a good girl. But anyway, she's 10 years old now, so it's not going to get better, her anxiety. I think she is who she is. And we love her for it. I just wish, you know, sometimes with a pet you just wish you could communicate with them verbally and they would understand and be like, do you know that everything is okay and you're safe? Just getting my pants out. I'm a little bummed about these paints because they're some of my favorite bottles. Well, first of all, I mean, I love the paints generally, but I love these bottles too. But I got some of them used, and so some of them are clogged up, and instead of adjusting them, I just got in the habit of constantly, like, not even using the bottle and opening them up and, you know, dipping it out like with a brush. But I'm kind of bummed about that because when the bottles work, they're some of the best. Alright, that should be good. Starting here. I'm with you, Opa. I also have hundreds of paints. And I'm thinking about just like going into my LGS Discord and like selling them for really, really cheap. Just being like, I don't know, 50 cents a paint. Because it is a big learning curve. You know, I've had fun like researching it and it's taken me many years. But now it's like I'm frustrated when I'm not mixing. So I've kind of like decided my own fate. Where like I kind of have to be able to mix or I'm just gonna be, you know, not having fun. But I totally get that. I was just banging my head against a wall for a long time, learning the color theory and stuff of mixing. Not even like the color theory of like paint schemes on miniatures. Just like generally how do you mix pigments, and like different hues have like all kinds of different paints. Like there's so many blues, like even primary blues that you can use. Like how does it all work? So I get that. As long as you're getting minis painted, I say have at it. But I am going to be starting a new Warhammer army. So I'm trying to decide how I'm going to do it. Because I do have a dream of like doing a army kind of in the Hobby Hank style. We're kind of layering up. But I don't want it. I don't necessarily need to take like an hour per mini. So maybe there'll still be some like airbrush or something like to speed up techniques. But I still want the effect, like I want there to be some hand brush painting effects just to like push the contrast and some of the texture and stuff that I love from the Hobby Hang minis. So we'll see. Because the thing is, what's always an option. What I like premixed paints for is army painting. So, but like it's your test model can start from sort of this style of mixing, and then you can narrow down a scheme to speed it up so you don't have to mix. But it's like the experimentation is based on just like experimenting with just whatever mixed paints. So maybe that's the route. Oh yeah, yeah. For sure it's a time saver, especially if you're buying it based on an idea that you have. It's like, okay, that'll execute. There's no one way that's better or worse. It's just what's getting minis on the table. Like, I have a lot of fun looking at color mixing resources and stuff, but I had a lot of frustrating parts too, so I could totally see, like, I'm not saying you did, but you know, it can be frustrating. It's like a lot of really heady cerebral stuff sometimes, and at a certain point we just want to get some models painted. So if your collection is doing that, hell yeah, absolutely keep that up. Like basically through hobby hang and kind of forcing this process on hobby hang, what I have learned to love is the workflow. And I think different materials, different paints, different techniques, experimenting with different stuff is you learn the workflow that you like. And that makes a really big difference. So at a certain point, it's just like, what workflow works for you? I've kind of changed mine. Like, we used to do hobby hang minis straight up from black. And we would layer up from black, and that's one workflow. Like, some people start white or gray, and they go kind of down in value. I'm kind of learning I like to start from a mid underpainted thing. So that's a transition in workflow. And what's fun about a step like this is it's like there's zero stakes. It can all be painted over and changed. So sometimes I'll leave a lot of it behind, but like any kind of accuracy for anything, precision, it's like I'm throwing it out the window. Like sometimes I'll even see a point where I didn't even hit it very well with this step, and I'm like, whatever, we're just gonna keep painting, you're not gonna notice. So that's why I really love just going wild with this step and doing different things. It's because paint covers paint. It's one of the beautiful aspects of it. Oh, and what I've loved doing with the cork on my bases, if I use cork, before I put the mini on it at all, I like carve out a bevel. Kind of creates like a hill, which, you know, maybe some people may or may not like. But just to get a bevel instead of just a big horizontal like plane of cork, I think adds a lot of variation, because then you can glue weird rocks and flock and everything else. It just creates a little more irregularity. So I'll just glue it straight to the base. There's no mini on it, and I'll just like take a 45-degree like X-Acto knife and sort of chisel around the outer part of the cork. And sometimes some of it will tear, so I'll pull it off. It's kind of spontaneous. It's like when weird little accidents happen, you just sort of leave it, and then you'll fill it in with like a rock or sand or something. But creating that bevel has made a lot of cool variation when using cork. Like right here is pretty much just the straight cork. So there's, you know, sort of like a cliff looking like vertical. And then over here there's like a gradual plane that we can fill out with stuff. Yeah, gray primer, base coat the midtone, love it. Absolutely love it. Because, you know, there's such a small amount of really, really dark tones in life. Like, to prime black is like, there's so little black. Like, the black is going to be like, on my camera here, it's like maybe in something like this. Like, way, way, way under here. And especially when we're exaggerating on a miniature for table view, it's like you need some of that maybe and very select parts, but most of it is like a low mid in the shadows. Like, it's still sort of in the middle. It's not as dark necessarily as you think. You need some super dark for the contrast to like exist in those under areas, but I used to just paint too dark. Used to just paint too darkly. Sometimes I would go through the whole process that you see me doing on Hobby Hang lately, and I would look back at it the next day and be like, wow, I wish I did twice as much. So instead I'm cheating and doing the front 50%, basically starting from the mid-tone like you're talking about. And then if we really need some dark elsewhere, we can just place it in. Just place it in. But I don't start from super duper dark anymore. That's how I prefer to go. The Lowtown brown hell. Listen, I was dreaming in various browns during Lowtown, okay? I can't say it was like enjoyable to paint hundreds and hundreds of pieces of wood, but it kind of was in the sense that I would just put on a podcast and like zone out and paint brown rigorously. It's very cool. It's very fun to build. And especially in Lowtown, any variance that happens in the wood colors, I think adds a lot. Not even just deliberate variance, but just like when you're painting a batch and, you know, you have a little opacity variance or something. I think it looks very cool. So yeah, caught up with all YouTube subscriptions. Exactly. That's what you gotta do for a project like that. and just the cities is one of those sets that just has more pieces, like the corner posts. You know what I mean? Like you need to just paint a lot more smaller pieces to do it. So yeah. Yeah, you could always go back and tweak it later, right? And you know what? I tell myself that, which is a great, you know, confidence booster and speed booster, and then I never do. That's the beauty of it. Rarely, when I have a miniature on the table painted, I'm playing with it, that brings me so much joy, and it never occurs to me to go back to it and touch it up. Because it turns out it's fun as it is. Okay, I'm gonna put these aside. Dolly, like, her... Shh. Hey. I swear she just kind of like heard my tone shift a little bit of like, okay, we're transitioning as I'm putting these aside. And she's like, are we doing something? What are we doing? Are we getting up? Are we... What's happening? I really like how these are turning out. What I will say, again, this is the thing, I don't mind it enough where I'm probably not going to change it. I think for something like a really saturated undertone like the blue and stuff, I might not do it as frequently on the bases. Just to separate the mini from the base. Like, because it's such a impactful effect. I don't need it to like happen on the base because I want the folks to be here. So like in this case, I could just sort of like zhuzh an earthy color here and there. I don't think I really need to because it's still cool and it's not super visible from table view. But I think in the future, if I were to go like something like this would obviously work on a base still. But if I were to go a little further and do something like this color that we've been doing, I might not put it on the base as much as I did. But still a fun experiment. And actually, I think it did work well on the... I do like how it is. I guess it depends, because I do like it on this base. Sort of a Martian, like, alien planet. And I like how the shadow is kind of exaggerated in this little pocket beneath the feet and inside this rock. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just a case-by-case basis. Yeah, does it involve food? You hear that? Yeah, I've done the zenithal thing. I just prefer to use the brush to control... like I've done like the airbrush zenithal, and I just feel like it blasts a lot of detail that I want to be like in shadow, like some of the black lining like type areas. I don't know. I just prefer, if I'm gonna do it, I'd rather just do it with a brush because I can still be fast but have a little more control. And I have done it on armies, and where I tried the same scheme with airbrush zenithal and just basically a zenithal with white dry brush, and I actually prefer the brush in a lot of cases because you can get opacity faster with the white, and if you kind of do a sketchy dry brushy thing, you still get some of that black lining. Again, we're talking about it's not black, but you know, the outlining of the recesses with like a dry brush. So if I do that effect, I'll actually usually do it with a brush. Even if I'm not being super sketchy, I'll just do like a dry brushy thing. Okay, because we did that like prelim step on these relic plates, I think I'm gonna mark it early. I'm gonna take my bathroom break right about here, give Dolly some pets, and then we'll hit this thing running, and we're not gonna stop till it's done. Okay, I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. Alrighty. Yeah, these have been a lot of fun. The thing I like about mixing and layering up too is like there's just slight variation. Like the metals of the weapons here are a little different. Even some of the learnings on like painting the reddish cloth a little different, but they're cohesive enough because we painted them sort of close enough in time to refer and mix together. All right, this is the warlord though. This is the chieftain. He is their fearless leader. Yeah, this is like an ore or something. There was a sword arm option, and I was like, there's no way I'm using that because this is such a weird weapon that I need to have it on my guys. It's like definitely bladed, but it's like double. It's like a double blade. I don't know, very strange, and I love it. And I kept the sword arm because the sword arm is actually sick also. To the point where I did almost put it on the model because it was such a cool big sword. I mean, I love a big sword. But I was like, there's no way, like, I will have no other model ever that has a weapon shaped like this. So I have to use it, you know? Yeah, it's almost like a thin battle axe. It is kind of like an axe. We're a little more green than the previous guys, but I don't mind that. It's close enough, and it adds some variance. We can always highlight it to like desaturate it a little bit. But maybe the chieftain is the greenest guy, you know? I'm totally fine with that. Missed a whole patch of skin that we can paint. Yeah, I've been there many, many times, Opa. Like, you're painting them under the lamp, and you're like, oh, I have all this range and value. And then you put them on the table, and you don't see that. I've been there many, many, many times. I feel you. That's why I just keep trying to have the confidence to exaggerate, knowing, you know, we're going to be seeing it from here. And not like crappy game store light. Hopefully not this bad, but you know what I mean. Like you can see the separation of the base coated dark and the skin still. So even just that. Alright, went a little too crazy on that layer. But we can fix it. Honestly, I don't even really mind it. I could leave it, but I probably will. We'll just do some glazing and knock it back. Just kind of start painting in the rest of some of this, so we can start getting an idea for the whole thing. There we go. I liked the value that it added. I just wanted the area to be a little less stark. This will probably do a similar thing. I'm jumping up in value really quickly from this base coat, just to get some contrast, and then, you know, these are the belts, the straps I'm not as precious about, so we'll just do this high contrast thing and we can glaze it down if we want. Probably do it a little bit at least. Then if we're going to do that with a glaze, once again we need to exaggerate. I'm going to go kind of wild and add some white here. Can always knock it back as much as we want. Oh, that's cool. New guitar? That's awesome. I haven't played my guitar in years. Got too much water in my paint. And I knew it too when I started applying it. I was like, ah, it'll be fine. 'Twas not fine. Maybe a little too much contrast, but we'll paint the rest first and see. Yeah, yeah. Once in a while, the bead of water sneaks up on me and betrays me. You're singing Water Wheel. Listen, of all the Lowtown pieces to sing, that's probably one of the better ones. I think I used some of this for the eye color, so I'll just get a touch of that out. I mean, it's still a red, but it's like a warmer, bright red, so it's kind of glowy. It's kind of hard to get with the cool primary red like this. Because you just start adding white and then it looks pink, you know? So we have those eyes quick to color after the white there, and then we have this bronzy armor to do. I'm kind of in a spot, sometimes I get in a place like this where I'm kind of just going to finish the rest of the model because most of the work will be that step, that armor step in this case. So I'm just going to paint the base to feel like I'm kind of done except for that. I don't know. Sometimes I have to for my brain. And if I'm really cheating, I'll even do the victory lap before I'm done. The base rim. Because it does kind of affect the look, you know. Sometimes just to get a final glance at the model, I'll do the base rim just to get a sense. Oh yeah, the water wheel is one of the best pieces, maybe ever. Oh no! I somehow undid like a child-proof lock. But we'll be okay. I painted so vigorously that the child-proof lock disengaged. There we are, all done. The beauty of this accelerant, and I literally always just use random tiny tubes of super glue, because every fancy glue that I have used just dries in the tube. I don't use it fast enough or something. So these, you can finish them really quickly, toss out the old one and start a new one. Yeah, we're mighty painting. Moonlit Arch, also incredible, yeah. I don't think there's accelerant. I used a little too much here because it's kind of new. It's very full. It's glossy here, but I don't think any of the stuff I'm painting has it on there, so we should be just fine, actually. That is the thing. These models are metal, so if they tip over like that from a distance, you know, it's pretty easy for an arm to come off in that case. I've had very few issues with them, but can't argue with physics sometimes. Hello, Plump. How you doing? Welcome, welcome. And now I think we have some room to go back to the skin and add another highlight. Now that everything has been painted around it, you sort of have a sense of the context. Just kind of looking around for a couple touch-ups here. Not too shabby. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, this is a fun warband. It's a cool looking group. That'll be fun. I just kind of well, for this warband, this is it. These four. In the game Relic Blade, there's basically like good and evil, kind of like it's called advocate and adversary, and so you can play, you know, there's faction synergies that just like are made to be thematic to a faction, but you can play any advocates together, any adversary together, and these are actually neutral, which means they can go with either. So maybe they're just looking for whoever's paying the gold or something. So these can go with any warband in game. But as far as the Trollkin, the Ogsul, they're called here, this is all of them that I own. There might be a couple special ones. This is like the faction pack, the like starter pack of it. There might be a couple special characters, but so these are sort of the troops, the minions. They have like the team rule where normally you activate one model at a time, but these will activate together as a team rule. That's kind of fun. They kind of gang up on stuff. This is just your elite smasher guy. He has a big hammer on him. And this is the warlord, so he has some kind of synergy, like aura synergy or something around other Ogsul. Yeah, the faction packs come with the cards. So they have a lot of cool cards. And if you don't know, this game is by Sean Sutter, and he writes the rules, does the art in the books and the cards, and sculpts the minis. It's totally a one artist show, and I mean, you can tell by the sculpts, like, it's very, very cool style. Yeah, so they come with cards. It makes it really easy to jump in and play and learn very quickly. Like, everything's on the card, basically. You learn the basic actions, and then just everything you can do is on the card. Very quick at a glance. And then there's upgrade cards you can get too, which some of them are like keyword specific. Like this guy is a warlord, so he might have a card upgrade that's like warlord only, but then any faction that has a warlord in it can take that upgrade. Even though it comes with this kit, you can put it with anything that's appropriate. And some of them are just wide open. You can put the upgrades onto anything. Yeah, these are on 25 mil. It's probably, like, you can tell they're a little stylized. Like, I don't think they're larger, like, they're not necessarily heroic scale, like Warhammer or something. Like, here's a human. And these are on 25 mil bases here. So it's kind of somewhere in between, like, it's a stylized classic 25 mil, but it's not heroic. So I think it's fun. I think it's a really fun size of just like, you know, honoring the classic scale. Like, you know, it has a kind of a nostalgic vibe, but the style is very unique and modern in a way. Oh, 100% they'd work on DF, yeah. We've played Relic Blade on Dwarven Forge, so we know for sure that these would work. See if I can kind of get an angle on these guys. Let me move these paints around. There we have it. The Og Sul. Pretty neat. Oh man, well my main game locally is Age of Sigmar, and we have literally winners of the world tournaments here in New York. And other national tournaments too. So my win-loss rate is not great. Yeah, so you win. Yeah, exactly. But I find that really fun. Like, for gaming, you know, I'm not trying to be super, like, sweaty and, like, spam lists skew, like, the best thing. But, you know, I don't mind being competitive. And so I find it really fun to, like, learn from these really highly skilled players. And they're all very friendly, too. It's a great community, great scene. And Nate plays, too, with me in that scene. So it's really a lot of fun, but I do get my butt kicked quite a bit. But I win my fair amount of games. I win my fair share. Yeah, always good feeling to finish a set. That's a lot of fun, especially because I've had all this Relic Blade stuff. I started getting it in like 2020, and like a large majority of it is unpainted. So I just decided to pull some of it out and prime it, like in between like prototypes drying and stuff, like build a model here or there. And now here we are. We have a brand new warband. So hopefully Chris and I can play that here pretty soon. He just messaged me about it this week, so I don't mind being competitive. This is the mentality of my students. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. My favorite for Relic Blade is probably the dwarves right now. I love the models. Dwarves are what started my miniature love back in the day when I was like 10 years old. Is I got my first box was Warhammer Dwarf Warriors. So I have a soft spot for them. And the style is very cool. There's like a dwarf wizard with like a really wide brimmed hat, and I painted like freehand patches on it and stuff. Another really cool shield guy. But with Relic Blade, I wish I could get every single model in the range. They're just very cool style. For Age of Sigmar, the past year and a half or so, I've been playing Stormcast. I do love a bunch of heavy armor dudes. I know they're like the poster, you know, faction, but they play really fun. And I like painting armor. Yeah, I still have these. They're not here. The dwarves for Relic Blade are at the office, as are my Stormcast. I mostly keep them at the office, Glitz. And we do have some cases that are like a glass drawer case, but I'll be honest, they're kind of unorganized because I'm trying to cram a lot of stuff in there, so so I need to find a better way to maybe show them off and display them nicely. But I also, my first year, like, I've been collecting Warhammer and like playing somewhat since I was a kid, but I didn't get really hardcore into Age of Sigmar again until a couple years ago, and I started with the Cruel Boys Orcs, which I like that Warhammer Orcs like existed for the players that like them. I was never like a huge fan of the classic Warhammer Orcs, but these are more like Hobgoblin Tolkien Orcs. in their aesthetic. So and they were in the starter box, so I got like a bunch of them, and they were cheap to find on eBay and stuff. So I did some Cruel Boys orcs, and I played that army for my first year or so in the scene here, and that was a lot of fun. But now I'm kind of going toward chaos. It might be like the broad chaos, like Slaves of Darkness, or Blades of Corn, which is like the Blood for the Blood God, like super melee army. For one thing, because I have a bunch of the demons, and I kind of want to get into 40k locally here too next year, and so the demons can go in Corn, 40k, and Age of Sigmar, and I'll just paint some of the mortals for either game to go with them. And I have a bunch of like the big demon bloodthirsters and stuff, so if I paint a couple of those, I can make like a cool list that takes up a lot of points with less painting to get started anyway. So that'd be fun. Actually, speaking of which, next week I don't think there's going to be a hobby hang, because I'm joining sort of the new players league at the game store, even though I'm not new to playing there because I played Sigmar, but I did say I wanted to get into 40k, so they're going to do a thing where like you buy the box, like you buy the combat patrol box, and sort of progress together. And there's a bunch of brand new people, so I'd love to sort of welcome them into like the hobby part and get them playing at the store. So they let me join that. There was kind of a discount. I was like, hey, can I like jump in there because I kind of want to start 40k? They're like, yeah, sure, just come to the events and like help people out. And the first one is next Thursday. Yeah, they're gonna do painting nights, they're gonna do like hobby nights, and then the idea is kind of like the slow grow thing where you'll finish out the box and play the combat patrol mode, which is sort of like pared down 40k, and then you know you're off to the races, so you can build an army and continue playing. Yeah, I've seen good things about that effect paint, Blood for the Blood God. But yeah, I'm glad we finished these up. So I won't see you next week, but then the following week in early March, I should be around. So hopefully I might be. I mean, I have a bunch of Relic Blade primed, so maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll pick at some of this Warhammer if I get the corn box built. But yeah, we have wrapped up the Og Sul. Thank you so much for joining me. Off next week, but I think there'll be an On the Anvil and with a special guest, and I won't say more. So definitely tune in to On the Anvil. Generally I don't magnetize. Especially for Sigmar, there's fewer weapon options. Maybe I'll do that more so in 40k, but I feel like a lot of the weapon options are kind of like you might as well take some of them. Like a lot of the troops, it's like, well, they have their baseline bolt guns, but for every 5, one can take a plasma gun. It's like you might as well take the plasma because it's slightly better, right? So it's like, why would you build it without that? So anyway, in general, I have magnetized before. I've done the full-on magnetization, and I think those days might be behind me. If there's like a big model, like a tank or something that has a bunch of options, and like I'm interested in using all of them, and it's slightly, especially if it's bigger, it might be like easier to magnetize, then I'm fine doing it. But I haven't done it in a while, and I try to avoid it if I can. But not opposed to it. But anyway, happy hobbying, y'all. Thanks so much for hanging, and we will see you on the next stream. Bye, everybody.